it is so nice to be back to Sydney. I've been here a couple times, and it's always interesting when I go to another country and they say, Marcus, I'm not sure how they're going to take your style. You talk with the audience, they don't necessarily talk back, and they don't want you to call on them, right, Josh? And you're saying to yourself right now, please, 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 don't call on me. But to Tasha's point, if you lean in today and if you're willing to engage, we're going to have a really good time. We have a great lineup. And I think we've got some really unique stories where you'll be able to feel like you can put yourself in your business in that moment, okay? And so let's have us a good time. Let's smile a lot, and let's get on with the show, yeah? So some of you have read They Ask You Answer. Some of you have not. If you've read They Ask You Answer, raise your hand. Let me see. If you've read They Ask You Answer, raise your hand. Okay, good. Now, here's the thing. For those that have read They Ask You Answer or heard me speak, what is so interesting is almost everyone says it all came clear the second or the third time. And so if you've heard this before, my promise to you is that you're going to feel like, even though some of the principles you already know, you're going to say to yourself, we're still not doing that. And oh my goodness, I've got an idea. You're just going to receive it in that moment. Now, for those of you that have never read They Ask You Answer, we're really going to push the way you think today about business, about sales, about marketing, and about trust. Similar to what Tasha said. I mean, we're going to push that envelope. We want today to be uncomfortable. That's good. Because if we came here and only sung Kumbaya together, do they sing Kumbaya in Australia? Is that a thing? Okay, maybe not so much. Well, if we sang whatever it is that you sing that makes everybody feel good at a campfire, then we haven't done enough, right? We've got to push it a little bit. We got to get uncomfortable. The wind's got to blow. The roots got to grow deep. And we got to get a little bit stronger. So a little bit of discomfort in terms of the way you've been doing sales and marketing and saying to yourself, I don't know about that one, Marcus. That's good. So every time today you find yourself saying, I don't know about that one there, Marcus, I am doing my job. And we're all getting better together. Fair, Daniel? Okay, good. Now, this number right here, 80%. I think it's the most significant trend in business over the last 100 years. This is what we know to be true. You know it, I know it. This is what we know. That our average customer today is 80% through that buyer's journey. They've done 80% of their research by the time they reach out to us. This wasn't my study. This is a study done by multiple entities, Google being one of them. So they are, we got a Marcus in the room. Marcus T. I'm Marcus S. Nice to meet you, Marcus T. That's cool. I don't meet many Marcuses. It's a rare name. We're a special breed, the Marcuses. Good to see you, Marcus. I'm not going to forget that. And so we're 80% through that buyer's journey on average. So by the time they fill out that form on your website, by the time they call you, by the time you have that conversation with them, on average, they're 80% home. So let's go back in time for a second. And let's say it's 25 years ago. Anybody know what year that was, 25 years ago? Emma's like, please don't test my math skills here, Marcus. It's too early for that. And then, okay, we're getting it. All right, everybody pulled out their calculators real quick on that one. That's good. 1998. So 1998, interesting year, 97. That was, if you recall, internet really started, really started to pop. That was when this thing that you and I called electronic mail became a thing. And a lot of people pushed back on electronic mail. They're like, no, it's not going to be a thing. Didn't go too well for those folks, right? We have things like that happening today. But let's go back to that point in time when we didn't have all the information in the world at our fingertips. And we said, how far through the buyer's journey was someone before they reached out to a company on average 25 years ago? If I asked you how far they were on average 25 years ago, internet's just getting started, what would you all say? Anybody in the room? Go ahead, come on. Yeah, good. Okay, 30%, 20%, and almost like that's universally where our brains take us. I imagine we were 20 to 30%. That's exactly right. And so that's where we were 25 years ago. When I wrote the first edition of They Ask You Answer in 2017, it was 70%. Today we're at 80%. So the question is, for you, me, everyone in this room, where is this number going to go over the next 5, 10, 15 years? It's going to go up. And Mitch, is it ever going to go back? Yeah, it ain't going back. We might want it to go back, but it doesn't care about our feelings. Plus, we're all responsible for the trend. Every one of us in this room. It's interesting. Sometimes salespeople complain about the trend. I don't like this trend, but yet they themselves are the ones that are responsible for it. Now, if this number's true, and we got to accept that it is, if this number's true, which department of your organization, let's assume you have these departments, whether or not you view it as such, if this number's true, which department of your organization has a greater impact on the actual sale? Is it the sales department or the marketing department? Which one? Marketing. Good, you said it with some vigor, especially my friend Ed McKnight in the back. You're going to hear from him soon. Marketing, yes. Yet notwithstanding, when a company is in financial trouble, the first department that gets cut or laid off is who? Marketing. That's how we pay you back, Kathy. That's not fair, is it? This isn't right. Are you a marketer, Kathy?
Sort of.
Sort of? Well, I bet you're good. Whatever it is, I bet you're good. So, this is what we know to be true. And when we're looking to grow the business, the first department that gets hired is sales. The question is, why is it that way? Because we've been doing it that way how long? Forever. If I went to any of your, let's say a CFO or someone like that you have on staff, and I went to them and I said, how do you consider sales department and how do you view or consider the marketing department? Generally speaking, they're going to classify sales as revenue and marketing as expense. Now, should it be that way, Angela, in 2024, let's call it, and beyond? It's crazy. And so the first thing that we have to do as a group is we've got to recognize that sales and marketing has fundamentally changed in terms of that buyer's journey. It's no longer really a sales process. It's a buyer's journey because they own the thing. And we've got to say, all right, what does this mean for sales? Well, for sales folks, they better be involved in this 80%. They got to get involved. Sales folks have to see themselves as responsible for this, i.e. marketing activity. At the same time, marketing teams, they have to be responsible for revenue. And this is why some of the greatest companies that we've worked with here at Impact and RedPandas, because we are a together company, we're partners, is there's a revenue team where they don't see it as a us-them. They've eliminated the silos. And that's what we've got to do as well. Now, here's what's sad. If you talk to most sales teams and you say, and this is in 2023, what percentage of the sales process do you dictate? What do you think most sales teams, from a percentage standpoint, feel like they determine of this sales process? What do you think that number is? Anybody? Come on. Okay. Yeah, my man said 80. Somebody else said 100. Yes. Sales teams say, I handle the whole thing. This is what I do. Are you in sales, Marcus? What are you? You're marketing? Good. Pay attention. This is how you're going to get a raise, brother. Good. All right? So, if your team thinks, okay, I'm handling everything from the sales side, the problem with that is they won't help marketing. They won't act as the subject matter expert. They'll say things like, I don't know if I have the time to have that subject matter expert interview with marketing this month. You see what I'm saying? It's not important for me to become established with video. I don't need to help make that YouTube short this week. I don't have time for that. That's not my job. That's not my role. That's marketing's activity. No. Our mindset has to be that it's changed, that we're working together. And this is why they ask you answer. Unlike most books, it's a sales and marketing book. You're at a sales and marketing event. We've got sales and marketing teams in this room because we're eliminating those silos as we speak. That's what's so beautiful about this movement, especially if you're really, really paying attention. We got to think differently than everyone else. What's fun about this is if you think like this and then you embrace it within your company, you're going to bypass the competition really, really fast. That's my promise to you. That's my promise. It gets so fun. So fun. Okay, so we have to accept this as a group. Now, my quick story. I used to be a pool guy. In fact, I still own a swimming pool company in Virginia called River Pools. Does anybody know, that hasn't read the book, what type of in-ground swimming pool this is? Say it loud. That's a fiberglass pool. Hey, y'all, By the way, I say y'all, that means you all. Okay, good. Do you all know where fiberglass pools really were invented? Does anybody know? Australia, that's it. You all invented my livelihood. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. Thank you. This is why it's a big deal. If you all don't exist, if you don't have this beautiful island saying, well, how do we make a pool? Let's take glass and sand and put it all together, then I don't have a book called They Ask You Answer, all right? And so we started this company, River Pools, 2001. Things were going okay for us. We're looking to grow the business up until this particular date. Does anybody remember this date? Yeah? What was this date? Yeah, it was the crash, Lehman Brothers. Now, for you all, I guess it was October 11th, wasn't it? Yeah, that's what's so cool about this. Like, very meta experience there, okay? Now, good or bad day for pool guys? Bad day. Because how do most people, at least in America, get the money to buy a pool? Yeah, they borrow it. That's what we do. We borrow the money, right? And so after this day, you couldn't get that second mortgage, you couldn't get that home equity line, and things were bad, right? And within 48 hours of that day, we had literally $250,000 in business where people withdrew their deposit and they said, we're too afraid. We can't continue to go forward with everything that's happening in the world right now. And then over the coming weeks, it got worse and worse and worse. And by January of 2009, we're going over that proverbial edge. And, we talked to 3 consultants that month, and they all said the same thing to me: Marcus, you should file bankruptcy. But the problem was, if I filed bankruptcy, I was going to lose my home, my 2 business partners were going to lose their homes, my 16 employees at the time would have lost their jobs. So we had to figure out how to get back over that edge. We didn't have much time. We certainly didn't have any money. And today we're going to talk about how we got over that edge, and it's going to be so fun. Even if you've heard it before, it's always so fascinating. I love giving this presentation because people say to me all the time, do you get tired of telling the pool guy story? I'm like, why would I get tired of that? First of all, pools are awesome. Secondly, this changed my entire life. Thirdly, it's now changed hundreds of thousands of other businesses around the world. Why would I get tired of this? And so as we were going over that edge and things were just so painful, now we started to think differently, right? And that's the beauty of pain and suffering. When we're going through trial and we're going through tribulation in our lives, now it forces us oftentimes, Peter, to do what? To consider change. Whereas before, the thought of change was too uncomfortable. Now, the thought of remaining static is too uncomfortable. And that's a special day. The day that we go from I fear change to I fear staying the same. And each one of us in this room are somewhere in that spectrum right now. But once you embrace the change, and so I started reading all these fancy phrases online like inbound marketing, content marketing, social media. And what I heard in my simple pool guy mind was, Marcus, if you really just obsess over your customers' questions, their worries, their fears, their issues, their concerns, and you're willing to address them on your website, on social, through text, through video, you just might save your business. So I said, if there's one thing I can do is truly, truly obsess over my customer, my buyer. I mean, I've been talking to them for years at this point. I know what they're asking me. I can do that. And so we called this simple mindset, They Ask You Answer. And as many of you know, They Ask You Answer helped the company take off. It became a book, and now so many of you are doing it. And it's so fun for me. It's wild. I mean, I even still having been on this journey, and I know the book has sold a lot of copies, but I have this assumption that I guess I've heard all the cool stories about it. Literally this morning, I heard 4 of you say, I've been doing it. It's changing my business. This is amazing. I'm like, what's your name? How did I not know who you were? And it's just crazy. It's amazing to me. It never gets old. It's so fascinating. And the cool thing is the principles of They Ask You Answer, they're going to last forever. They're going to be as relevant in 5 years as they will be in 20 years, as you're going to see shortly. Now, before we go on, I do want to talk about that though, because one of the biggest elements of our success together today is this right here. I have a fear. And it's always a fear in every single audience I go to, right? So my fear, Michael, is that you hear what I say today, and you're like, man, that was a pretty cool story, Marcus. I'm happy for you and your pool company. But you see here at Member Jungle, which is the name of Michael's company, here at Member Jungle, things are a little bit, go ahead, Different. Yes. Different. I bet you think you're different, don't you, Michael?
We're slightly different.
Yes. With a name like Member Jungle, you probably are. Now, that being said, the reason why people give Michael money in exchange for a good or a service is the same reason they give me, as a pool guy, money in exchange for a good or a service. It's the same reason why they give it to you, Josh, and it's the same reason why they give it to you, Cutella. Is that how you say that? Okay? It's the same reason they give it to all of us. There's an emotion that somebody feels towards you more so than they felt towards anybody else, especially during that 80% when they were vetting. And that's the emotion that binds everybody in this room right now. That's the one thing I'm sure that we all have in common. And of course, that emotion that binds us all together, that we're battling for every single day, what's it called? Everybody say it out loud. Trust. That's right. And that is the business we're in. And if I said to you, Nathan, is trust going to be fundamental to your business in 5 years? What would you say? Yes. If I said to you, is it going to be fundamental to your business in 20 years? What would you say? So you know it's not going away. And of course, the reason for that is trust is a principle. When did trust start? Forever. It's always been. Therefore, it's always been, it always will be. But is Facebook going to be relevant to your business in 5 years? Let's all hope we have advanced as a society by that point, right? And so the answer is, Facebook's fine, by the way, but the point is, Facebook is a platform. Platforms do what? They come, they go. That's what they do. And this is why we don't build businesses on platforms. We build on principles. The principle that we're teaching you today is how can you become the voice, the brand of trust in your space. That's what we're going to teach you. If you are aligned with that, you're going to get a very, very clear, data-proven framework to actually pull it off. And you can pull it off if you don't shortchange it. That is the promise. Now, if you're not aligned with being that most trusted voice in your space, if you don't be known as the trusted brand, well then, you won't love today. And that's okay. That's okay. But for those that are aligned with that, we're going to have a great time. And so whether you're a B2B service-based business, whether you're a product, whether you're e-commerce, whether you're a nonprofit, my promise to you is that these principles apply. And before you say, that wouldn't work for us, ask yourself, would that induce more trust? I know what he's saying is different right now, but if we did it, would it induce more trust? And if you come from that place, I promise you're going to see how you could do it. So if everyone is willing to come from a place of how could this induce more trust, all together say, we'll do it. Okay, that was okay. That was all right. All right, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. So if you want to become the voice of trust, you got to do 4 things. All right, this is going to be your first audit of the day. Number 1, you got to be willing to talk about what others in your space are not willing to talk about, especially on your website, on the socials. Number 2, you got to be willing to show through video what others in your space are not willing to show. Number 3, you got to be willing to sell in a way that others in your space are not willing to sell. And number 4, you got to be willing to humanize your business, your brand, more than anyone else is willing to humanize their business and brand. Now, number 4 is a newer addition because we have this thing called artificial intelligence that's now going to start to affect all of us. One of the great divides in the future for you and me, everybody in this room, is what have you done to make your brand feel more human than everybody else in your space? And the great thing about They Ask You Answer, it was literally designed to help your brand feel more human. Because the more human it is, the more trust you're going to induce. Now, here's what you have to ask yourself. Of these 4 things, right now, how many are we doing consistently better than 90% of our industry? Better than 90% of our industry. How many are we doing of these 4 right now? Now, I want you to do an audit in your head. Be super self-aware. Self-awareness is key today. So if you can say without equivocation that 100% we're talking about showing, selling, and humanizing our business in a way that at least 90% of our competitors are not doing, and we're doing it consistently, I want you to go ahead and raise your hand. And don't be shy. Just go ahead and raise your hand. You probably didn't hear the question. I'm going to ask you one more time. Now, we see that, right, Daniel? And it's like, well, almost no one raised their hand. But that's not sad, is it? Because you should look at that and feel what? Yeah, excitement. So you're telling me, that's it. That's all I got to do. And I'm going to become the voice of trust, the brand, the trusted brand. Yes, that's what I'm telling you. That's all you got to do. There is your plan. Okay, so how do we pull it off? How do we do it? Well, we can't do the ostrich. An ostrich, when it has a problem, what does it do? Sticks its head in the sand, which is a total myth, and it's not true. But it's a good visual, so we use it today, right? Now, it sticks its head in the sand because it thinks the problem will go away. But does it ever go away? It never goes away. So how does this affect us in this room? Has there ever been a question that you get all the time from potential customers, from potential candidates even, doesn't matter what it is, where you've said to yourself, you know what? If they ask us in person, that's fine, but we really can't talk about that on our website. No, let's not go there. Let's not go there. Can you think of one? I bet you can think of a lot. And if you can't think of a lot, I'm getting ready to show you a whole bunch. Because most companies are like the ostrich, if we're being very honest. Most. Now, can you become that most trusted brand and be an ostrich? Yes or no? Say it loud. Yes or no? No, can't do it. Cannot be the ostrich. And so we got to figure out together, how do we become the antithesis of that fake image right there? Okay, so what are we going to do? Starts right here. Starts with the way that you and I think. Turns out, in every single industry, this is for potential customers, and also, by the way, we're not going to really delve into this, for potential candidates. One of the great means of solving your recruiting problems is using They Ask You Answer for recruiting. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that today, but everything I'm about to show you is as applicable to recruiting as it is to finding new potential customers. Okay, there's 5 subjects that move the needle in every single industry when we're researching something. 5 things that we want to know before we reach out to that company. 5 things that during that 80% especially, we're saying to ourselves, I just want to understand this before I reach out. So what's one thing, and I want you to say it out loud, what's one thing that you always tend to research before you reach out to a company? Anybody go? Good. Cost price reviews. You were really, really fast. That was great. You see, nobody ever taught you that. Nobody ever literally sat you down and said, now listen, when you're making a buying decision, I want you to type in reviews plus a few words. See, nobody ever taught you that. Nobody ever said, how much does such and such cost? And nobody ever told you that. You just learned to do it. Now, here's the 5. Here's the 5. As buyers, consumers, and again, even job candidates, the 5 things that we want to understand, that we research all the time. We want to know, as buyers, consumers, how much is it? As a job candidate, we want to know, how much will I make? Number 2, we want to know what are the problems or the negatives with it. How could this go wrong? Fears, worries. Number 3, we want to know what's everybody saying about, how does this compare to that versus comparisons? Number 4, we want to know what's everybody saying about it, reviews. We want the good, the bad, and the ugly. And number 5, we want to know the best, most, top. How many times have you gone online and typed the word best plus a phrase over the last 10 years? How many times? Hundreds of times. That, my friends, is what moves the entire economy. This is the economy of search that you're seeing on the screen. And here's what's amazing. Even though we as businesses, as buyers are obsessed with these things, even though we're researching them all the time, as businesses, Pranil, we don't want to talk about these things. And that's where we have a problem. Now, do you have a website, Pranil?
We do, yes.
You do, good. Now, I want you to be super self-aware right now, Pranil. Are you familiar with the content on your website?
Yes.
Good. That's a good sign as head of sales. I'm glad to hear that. All right, now, what percentage of your website right now, the content on it, relates to these 5 subjects right here. Be super honest and self-aware, and I can tell you the average company is somewhere between 5 and 10%. So based on that, what's your answer?
At least 50%.
You said at least 50? Have you been doing the ask you answer?
No.
No?
But RedPandas have been helping us.
Well, then you've been doing they ask you answer. He said, we haven't been doing it, but RedPandas has been helping us. Dude, they're a they ask you answer company.
Of course.
Now, maybe I just need to talk to RedPandas. This guy thinks, man, RedPandas is smart. Well, they are, but they're doing they ask you answer with you, Peniel. Good. Now, most of you, Moby, we got to talk about that one afterwards. All right, good. Now, most of you, if we did an audit on your website, let's say you haven't been doing they ask you answer, and you're not awesome like Peniel, you're not working with RedPandas. All right, so you're probably going to fall somewhere around 10%. I can tell you right now, if your number's 10% like the rest of the world, you will not stand out, and you'll never become the most trusted brand. They might trust you after they work with you, but online, they won't become the most trusted. And so we're going to show you how definitively you can do this. What's really cool is some of the messages today, we're even going to show you how you can use AI to do this. But everything starts here with this fundamental foundation. This is where the transparency begins, right here, and understanding exactly how they search. So let's start with the big one, which is cost. And I love this one. It's my most favorite one. My mostest favoritist one. Cost and price. Because it's the elephant in the room. It's the thing that makes us all uncomfortable. I mean, my friend Michael here, he's already ready to argue with me. This is great. Okay, good. Now, everybody's got to participate here. I need your help. By a show of hands, how many of you have researched how much something cost online, let's say over the last year, by a show of hands? All right? Anybody here living off the grid that I need to be aware of? Because I heard you can do that here in Australia. All right, now, when you're on a website and you're looking for cost and price information and you cannot find it, what is the emotion you experience? Frustration. And you're going to say that. That is the F word of the internet. Even, shock, my friends. Yeah, it's like we get very mad. We get very angry. So my question for you is why? Why are you feeling so frustrated in this moment, Alex? Because you are the what in this moment? I'm the buyer. I'm trying to give you my money, and you're making it very hard. Now, in this moment of frustration, do you as the buyer, the customer, Alex, do you say to yourself, I'm sure that information is on this website somewhere. I'm just going to keep on looking until I find it. Does he do that? No, he does not do that. In fact, we've done studies on this. Guess how long somebody will stay on your website looking for cost and price information until they leave? Guess how long? Right. 30 seconds in Australia. In America, 10 seconds. 10 seconds. In Australia, because you're so much more friendly and patient, probably 30. But it won't be long, I promise. I promise. You'll get to 10 seconds too eventually. All right? And so, we know that that number is going down by the day. We're growing more and more impatient all the time. Now, in this moment of frustration, Alex, do you as the buyer, and it's important, do you as the buyer, do you as the searcher, do you say to yourself, well, of course they're not talking about cost and price information. They're a value-based business. They have very customized solutions. I'm going to call them on the phone instead. Do you do that, Alex? Does Alex do that, everyone? No, because what does he do? Instead of digging further on the website, instead of calling them, he as the buyer, he as the searcher, he keeps doing what? He keeps searching, and he searches until what happens? He finds what he's looking for, and generally speaking, whoever gives Alex what he's looking for, they're going to get what, everyone? That's right. They're going to get his business. And if not his business, at least they're going to get first contact, first phone call. And I'm sure we could all agree in this room, if you had a choice, you would always rather be the first company contacted every time. Yes or no? Absolutely, right? That's how we think. And the real reason we get so upset in this moment as the buyer is because we know that they know as the business the answer. And because we know they know the answer, or at least a semblance of the answer, and they're not giving it to us, we now feel like they are doing what? That's right, lying, hiding something from us. In the moment you feel like anyone is hiding anything from you online, what happens? Trust is gone. And what is the business we're in? Trust. Now, with that being said, I want to have, once again, let's continue our theme of self-awareness. Participate with the poll because it helps. By a show of hands, based on what you just heard, how many of you right now with your company, and this should be a very high number in this room because it's a they ask you answer room. By a show of hands, how many of you are very diligently, actively talking about the cost and price of your products and services on your website right now? Raise your hand. Now listen, keep them up. This is a very high they ask you answer room, and look what we've got. We've got roughly 25%. Maybe 20%. Go ahead, thank you. Put them down. Good job. Now, I wish that you all could be where I am right now and see you. Because there's two groups of people in this audience. First group is saying, because you've done it, you're like, yeah, this is great, this is good. Second group is saying, I don't know if I like him. I don't know. I don't know if I like the pool guy. I don't know. Why'd he come all the way across the ocean? This guy's pissing me off, right? Because you're saying to yourself, you don't understand my business. Thank you for being so brave. You don't understand my business. Okay, fair enough. Let's play that game, shall we? So there's three major reasons why we don't like to talk about cost and price on our website. Let's analyze each because it's fun. I love psychology. First major reason why we don't like to talk about cost and price on our website. Anybody say it out loud? Go ahead. Okay, I heard one. Competition. Now, what's interesting about that? If I came to you and I said, especially your sales team, do you have a pretty decent sense as to what your competitors charge? What would you say? Yes. And so here's what's so funny about it. If you know what they charge, it therefore means they know what you charge. You see, this is the big secret, non-secret. Everybody acts like nobody knows what everybody's charging, when in reality, everybody knows what everybody's charging. Right, Josh? And besides that, when was the last time your competitors paid your bills? Folks, do not base decisions of trust on what the marketplace, the competition, is doing. If that is your model, you are destined to fail. Who dictates our model? The buyer. That's who matters. They ask, you answer. They being the buyer, not they being the competition. Let's obsess about them. So that's the first reason why we don't do it. The competition, which is silly. Second reason why we don't like to talk about cost and price. Anybody? Go ahead. Okay, I don't want to scare people away. Ed McKnight, that's a good one. I don't want to scare them away. That's great. What's so great about that one is just a few moments ago, we all agreed together, all of us. The thing that actually scares us in the buying process isn't when they educate us and teach us about cost and price, but rather what? When they don't. When they don't. Now, maybe it does or doesn't work like this in this country. You can enlighten me. Let's do an example with my friend Richard here. We're friends now, right, Richard? Good, we're friends. So let's be hypothetical, Richard. Let's say this is one of your first times in city, and I'm sure it's not, but let's say it's one of your first times, second time. Good, okay. So let's say tonight you're going to go to a restaurant, you're going to take a loved one. You want it to be a great experience. Now, if Richard is going to go to a new restaurant tonight, he's never been there before, he wants it to be a great experience. Before he goes to that restaurant, like most people, he's probably going to do two things. What are the two things he's going to do before he goes to that restaurant tonight? Anybody go? Say it out loud. Yeah, reviews and look at the menu. Good. All right, everybody said it. You're good. You're human. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If Richard goes online, researches that company, looks at their menu, and there is no pricing on said menu, is he still going to go? Now, before you answer that, some of you are thinking, is this going on the company credit card or not? Okay, no, Richard, no, it's not. This is on your dime. And so on that moment, we know that the majority of all people will not go. And it's not because they can't afford it, because Richard can afford it. But rather, it's because the moment they left the menu blank, they planted a seed of doubt. And when seeds of doubt exist, inertia occurs, and we stop. And so the idea of we don't want to scare them away, folks, the thing that scares them away is ignorance, not understanding value. Your job is to make sure they understand value. Third reason we don't talk about cost and price, we like to say things like, every job is different, customized. Or if you're in the UK, they like to say, we have a very bespoke solution, right? I mean, this is what we say. I love that word, bespoke. It makes me feel intelligent, right? Now, here's the thing. Nathan, what do you sell, my friend?
Hire equipment.
What type of equipment?
Or construction equipment.
Construction equipment. Okay, good. Now, if I came to you, Nathan, because remember, we say every job is different, so I can't talk about it. Okay, so let's say I came to you, Nathan, and I said, can you help me understand what would drive the cost? Like, what are the factors that would drive the cost of your product or service up? Could you explain those factors to me, yes or no? That would drive them up. Yes, okay, good. If I came to you and I said, Nathan, can you help me understand the factors that would keep the cost of your product or service down? Could you explain that, yes or no?
Less so, but yeah.
Okay, if I came to you and I said, you know what, you gave me a quote. Thanks. Your competitors gave me a quote too. Now, it's interesting because some of you are higher, some of you are lower. Can you help me understand why there seems to be like a delta in the industry? Could you explain that, yes or no? And of course, over the years, how many times have you had to explain things like what drives cost up, what keeps cost down, and why is there a delta? How many times have you had to address questions like that or somebody on your team? Often. And how many people in this room have had to address questions like that before? Every single one of us, if we're in the game of business. And what's so sad about this, Nathan, is oftentimes we don't address these questions until the potential customer asks. And by that point, Daniel, what has happened so often? They have already left. But you didn't know they existed. So you didn't count it as a loss. Folks, if we could all count the number of lost customers in revenue we have had because we were the ostrich, it would stun us. It would shock us. And we'd all be moved to action. But because you don't know, we continue to do things like they've always been. So those are the three reasons why we don't like to talk about cost and price. Now, some of you are saying, well, all those may or may not be true, Marcus, but I'm still not picking up what you're putting down. Okay, good. Stay with me. Here, when we embraced They Ask You Answer, first piece of content we put on our website was this one right here. A guide to fiberglass pool costs. It was said, buying a fiberglass pool is a lot like buying a car. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of accessories. And we listed out all those options and accessories. We talked about the factors that would drive cost up, keep cost down. We talked about what makes some companies so expensive, what makes some companies so cheap. But we said ultimately the answer to your question is 2 words. It depends. But because we were willing to explain why it depends, something really amazing happened. From a search perspective, if you went online in the next couple of days and you searched anything to do with how much is a fiberglass or in-ground pool cost, we were the first ones you saw. You see, no company had addressed this question literally in the world on their website. Every swimming pool company was afraid. Oh, I don't want to scare them away. I don't want my competitors to see it. Every job is different. You see, it's all the same business that we're in. And so when you get past that and say, well, of course we should talk about it, now suddenly we start to get an amazing amount of visitors. But it didn't stop there, of course. Let's look at how this turns into revenue, because that's why we're here. We're not here to get you more visitors. We're here to get you revenue and just completely and utterly change your life. And so here's a list of the number 1 phrases that generate the most traffic to our website over the next few years. So let's look at the top one on the list. Fiberglass pool prices. So we had 13,000 people go to Google, typed in fiberglass pool prices. They landed on the website, and of those 13,000, 30 of them filled out a form and said, I want to get a quote from you. So these are quotes on the right side. Now you might say, why is that number so low? And that's because at the time we were just a little company in Virginia. We weren't a national company yet. Now, what are the red arrows? The red arrows are phrases that, when somebody searched it, they landed on that article, how much does a fiberglass pool cost on the website? So we've got roughly 200 plus sales appointments that occurred from people that landed on that article. How much does a fiberglass pool cost? Now, here's the very important question. If that article is never written, how many of those sales appointments would have ever occurred? Yeah, 0 to almost none, right? Because why? They never would have found us. But we know they did find us. And many of them did read that article on the website. Many of them did read more, watch more. Many of them did fill out a form. Many of them did have a sales appointment. Many of them did buy. We know the names of the ones that bought. We know the value of their pools. And therefore, I can tell you without equivocation that that one single article, since the day it was written, just for that little location in Virginia, has now generated over $35 million in sales that we would not have had we not been willing to address the question. And did we ever say exactly how much a fiberglass pool cost? Yes or no? So am I saying that we should all have a definitive price list on our website? What are we suggesting? That's right. Have the conversation. Good, Mitch. Because if you don't hold the conversation, who is? Your competitor. And I don't know about you, but the thought that one of my potential customers would learn value from a competitor makes me, just like you said, it just makes me utterly uncomfortable, makes me a little bit sick inside. I want them to learn everything from me. I want to control the conversation, and I know you do too, and that's how you become the most trusted brand, by holding conversations that nobody else will. $35 million because we were willing to have a conversation that nobody else was, one single article. So again, we're not saying put a definitive price list. Let me show you an example of I'm going to give you just one example of a company that's done this. Now remember, this is B2B, it's B2C. There's lots of other examples that we've got in the B2B space. I might show one or two today. This particular one is they're like a direct-to-consumer manufacturer of sheds in Scotland, okay? Now, this is great. This company's called Gillies & Mackay Sheds, all right? Gillies & Mackay. And what I'm about to show you is their pricing page. So every slide that I'm about to show you that comes next is on one page of their website. So you're saying, how should I do a pricing page? Well, I'm going to show you right now. Now, one thing you notice there, is they've got pricing in their navigation bar. If you want to quickly see like what the most clicked link on your entire website is, put pricing in your navigation bar. But when you do it, don't just slap some numbers. Don't just slap numbers. You see, 80% of the page should be about just teaching them how to vet cost, price, etc. in the industry. So what we've got here is the opening of the page, talking about our prices, what's included, where your money goes, and FAQs. They immediately hit you with a video about our pricing, and as you scroll down, we've got how much does a Gillies & Mackay shed cost? And this is their CEO, Kara Mackay. She's great. Now, I want you to see something so cool. This is great. Look at what's underneath this video. This is so fun. First of all, we believe in transparent pricing. That's why you'll find all our price lists with a shed load of helpful information on our website. Easy to view and download, or even print off if you will. Think of it as a wee keepsake of your shed life dreams. Isn't that great? Do you already love this company? Do you want to give them your money for a shed? I do, because they're very different. And then they continue on this page and they talk about what's included, and they talk about everything that you could expect in terms of your base. And then they talk about, okay, what you get for your money and how the process works and the service that you get. And then they talk about literally where your money goes, the materials, where they source their materials. I mean, they're explaining to you like their margins on sheds. They're just walking you through they've got nothing to hide here. And they even talk about, hey, we got some disclaimers though. Things happen out of our control. And everybody's always worried, well, what happens if pricing changes? You just talk about it. And then at the end, they've got even more questions that you can click on and learn about. And this is an example of how they became the fastest growing shed manufacturer in the UK. I mean, they're just crushing it. And you can too, because they're thinking about it and doing it a little bit differently. And finally, you can book a consult. That was one page of their website. That was one page, all one page. And you can find it at Gillies & Mackay Sheds. So everybody in here could talk about cost and price. But remember, you don't have to give exact. You want to focus on teaching the industry. What drives cost up? What drives cost down? Why are some companies so expensive? Why are some companies so cheap? And then talk about you as well. But if you do that, now you've defined what you and I would call value, and then you're off to the races. Okay, good. Let's talk about problems. Before I do that, does anybody have any questions about cost and price? Yes, please. Nice and loud.
So I understand all the content. You actually reckon it's great for a lot out of that. What happens in a situation where it's going to sound like this
Help me out. Thanks.
What happens in a situation where it's like a commercial customer? Then you're trying to it actually is bespoke. Like you're trying to discount, create rates, etc.
Yeah, so, sometimes people say to me, Marcus, sometimes it depends on how many they order, and sometimes it depends on this and that. What's interesting about that is you're already starting to teach me what dictates pricing. And so, in other words, if I came to you, and what is it? It's
Manel.
Manel. Okay. If I came to you, Manel, and I said, so I understand that there's fluctuations, so really what are those factors? What would cause you to give on the commercial side some a better rate than others? You can talk about that. And by the way, you can do it on both sides too, because the product that you sell is what?
Same, construction equipment.
Yeah, construction equipment. And so in this context, you're like, so the person that buys it from you, is that the end user or not?
Yes.
That is the end user. Good, that's perfect. And so you want to say things like, you want to say, now, if you're looking at this piece of equipment, here's all the factors that you're going to find that's going to drive cost for that piece of equipment in the industry. And you need to talk about those factors. Now, let's say that you have a really refined budget. Well, here's what you could get, but in a context like that, you're going to have to sacrifice this, and that in terms of your equipment. Now, if you're looking for something high-end, you could achieve this, and that with your equipment, but it's going to be in this type of range. And so you just want to give them a very, very clear feel. Like if you gave, and this happens how it works in most industries, Manel, most industries have 3 tiers. 3 tiers. They've got like a low, a mid, and a high quality tier, whether it's a service or a product. And if you explain it and say, in the industry, here's how it looks, and this is what you can expect to find, and now you're teaching that, and then at the end you can say, now, here at name of my company, we have chosen to go with middle and high tier equipment. So you won't be able to find some of those lower budget ones. And so if your only intention is, I want to buy the cheapest one, well, we're probably not going to be able to offer that for you, and that's fine. But if you're looking for this, and that, well, then we might be a great fit for you. And so by doing that, boom, you've done all these things. Now, you can also add on there, now, we also dictate pricing in terms of how many units you order and, if you've been a customer of ours for a long time or not, or, there's all these factors. And I wouldn't hide that because if somebody came to you as a potential, I don't know what you call them, just a regular customer, they're going to say, well, how do I get better rates? And you're going to explain it to them. So I would just openly explain that on your website as well. I wouldn't hesitate. Unless there's something like really proprietary.
No, that's
Okay, and usually it's not. Usually it's not. Okay, good job. Great question, good job. Everybody got it? Okay, now what's cool is, obviously, if you have more questions about this, I know I can speak for Moby. You, after this event, reach out to Moby and say, listen, man, I just want to ask, how do I pull off this cost content on my website? And he's ready to help. True or false, Mob? All right, just do it, okay? And so, there you go, problems. This is a fun one, problems. Now, what's interesting is, it turns out that when we're serious about buying something, we want to know what could go wrong. And so let's be hypothetical. Josh, let's say that you met with me back in the day. You want to get a fiberglass pool. You're excited about a fiberglass pool, but to keep me honest, you meet with Peter, who sells concrete pools. Freaking Peter, right? So he sells concrete pools, and as soon as Peter finds out you met with Marcus, the fiberglass pool guy, what's Peter going to say about Marcus's fiberglass pools, y'all? What's he going to say? Oh, they're terrible. I mean, you don't want a fiberglass pool. They crack and they pop out of the ground, and they're very limited in shapes and sizes. And I mean, shoot, Josh, it's not even a real pool. It's like a bathtub in your yard, man. I mean, why would you get a fiberglass pool, right? And so Peter has introduced all these fears to you. And then he finishes, because he's a concrete pool builder, he finishes by saying, I'm telling you, you don't want the problems with the fiberglass pool. That's your lasting impression. And so now, if Josh here is so concerned about the problems of fiberglass pools, what's he going to do? Where's he going to go? Yeah. He's either going to buy concrete or he's going to go online, and what's he going to search? Problems with the fiberglass pools. And over the years, how many times do you think somebody had said to me, Marcus, be honest, what are the problems of the fiberglass pool? How many times? Hundreds of times. And how many pool guys in the world had addressed this question? Once again, nobody, because, that's like an elephant. Folks, you take your elephant, you bring it to the front door, and you say, here's our elephant. We love our elephant. Got any issues with our elephant? So don't be embarrassed about your, quote, elephants. And so we openly talked about the problems of fiberglass pools. We said they're not for everybody. You cannot get them as wide as you might want. So I don't know how this works in terms of, meters or whatever, but you can't get them wider than 16 feet, longer than 40 feet. You can't get them deeper than roughly 8 feet. But if you're looking for a low-maintenance swimming pool, it's going to last you a lifetime, that's less than 16 by 40 and less than 8 feet deep, well, then it might be a great fit for you. And so because we did that, something amazing happened next. Here's a list of the number 1 phrases that generate the most sales appointments to the company over the next couple years. Now, the number 1 with 56 sales appointments was River Pools and Spas, but I don't count that one because they were looking for us. The rest of the people that you see on the screen didn't know who they wanted to engage as their pool company. They just knew they had a question. So the number 1 phrase that generated the most sales appointments over the next couple years was fiberglass pools problems. How is it possible that talking about the negatives with your stuff could, in this case, generate over $2 million in sales? How's it possible? Go back to that word. What's the word? Trust. You see, the greatest way in life to resolve a concern is to address it before it becomes a concern. Not once it's a concern, before it's a concern. Because now you get in front of it and you own it. And so we get in front of these things with our content. It turns out that when we're serious about buying something, we want to know, how could it go wrong? Here's another example. This is a roofing manufacturer, and they make metal roofing. They're called Sheffield Metals. And when they came to us and they said, hey, we want to be the most trusted brand for metal roofing products. We said, okay, well, metal roofing has a lot of fears that comes with it. People want to know what could go wrong, what are the problems. So one of the first videos they produced was 7 common problems of a metal roof. Now here's what's wild. 500,000 views, 500,000 views. A huge portion of which are people that just want to buy a metal roof and they want to know what could go wrong. So I ask you, what are the questions that you've been asked before that sound like this? Is it true that somebody told me that? Your competitor said that. All these questions you should be owning and addressing on your site, on social, etc. Do not let everyone else dictate that conversation. Got it? Good. All right, look at this one. This is the B2B one. This is another company that we've worked with, and they are just a SaaS solution provider. 6 problems with Cisco Umbrella and their solution. And so in their case, they work with Cisco Umbrella. That's what they do. And they know if you're looking to work with Cisco Umbrella, that you're like, how could this go wrong? Because whenever software is involved, you're like, uh-oh, headache city, right? And so because they know this, they're not going to shy away from it. They're going to lean into it. And that was their second most viewed piece of content for that entire year. We see this over and over again. I could literally give you hundreds of examples of companies that have gone through this journey. All right, comparisons. So let's talk about comparisons. We love to compare stuff online. You versus your competitor, your method versus their method. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. We love to compare. Now, used to be that people would ask me all the time, Marcus, be honest, what's the difference between a concrete and fiberglass pool? What's interesting is, once again, no swimming pool company in the world had addressed that question on their website when we started this process. Now, why? Because here's what was crazy. Fiberglass Pool Company was saying this: our biggest competitor is concrete pools. And so this is what we're going to do. We're not even going to talk about concrete pools on our website. And if we don't talk about concrete pools, well, then nobody will know concrete pools exist. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Now, what's crazy is some of us in this room have that same mindset right now. We're acting like if we don't talk about it, maybe the buyer won't find out about that other option that exists. And so we said, this is dumb. Let's talk about it. And so we openly talked about it. Fiberglass versus vinyl liner versus concrete pools, an honest comparison. And did we say fiberglass pools were better? Yes or no? No, we didn't. Why did we not say they're better? Well, because they're not always better. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But let's look at how he wrote this. And one of the things that when RedPanda works with the companies, we've really got to teach them how to sound unbiased and how to truly be unbiased with your content. Too many companies start, they ask you answer, and they sound like they're still trying to sell something hardcore. You can't sound like that. Look at the first sentence here. Is there an unbiased comparison of fiberglass in-ground pools, vinyl liner pools, and concrete pools on the internet? See, that's what you're thinking. That's what you want to know. That's what you want to find. And so you start right there, and immediately you're saying to yourself, this company sounds a little bit different. Now, let's look at this last sentence in the opening. The approach is simple. I list the advantages and disadvantages of fiberglass, vinyl, and concrete pools. And then back off so you can form your own opinion. Do you speak to your customers like that? Do you say, hey, I'm just going to present you the facts. I'm going to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then you can decide. You feel me here? Because that's what they want. That's what you want. The question is, are you giving it to them? Too often, they can immediately tell. We're trying to sell them something. And so I want you to think about all the times you've been asked, if you were me, which would you choose? And because of this, today, if you go online and you compare any type of in-ground swimming pool, generally, we're the first ones you're going to see. What's really cool about this, look at this, concrete versus vinyl pool. You see, we don't sell concrete nor vinyl pools. But when somebody searches that, they're going to read that. They're going to read it from us. Why? Because I want to introduce fiberglass pools. So I'm going to do an honest comparison of concrete and vinyl, but then I'm going to jump in and I'm going to say, and oh, by the way, there is a third option you might not know about. You see, when we started doing fiberglass pools in the US. In 2001, they made up 8% of the residential swimming pool market. Because of what river pools did, literally just river pools, they went from 8% to 18% of the market. And that's where they are today, 18%. And we're going to cross 20 at some point in the next 2 years. That's how you change the perception of an entire industry. Now here, what's so cool in Australia, it's about 50%. So you guys are just way more advanced with fiberglass pools. So props to you for that, all right? Props to you. Now, I'll show you another B2B example. So with our company Impact, as an elite HubSpot partner, we are recommended to, we're a name that's found in the HubSpot directory. But in that directory, there's other partners that are found too. One of which is called New Breed, one of which is called SmartBug. And so people ask us all the time, yeah, I found you on the directory, and I just reached out to you and a couple other agencies. We know what agencies they reached out to. And so our choice is we can act like no other agencies in the world exist, or we can openly compare. And they want us to compare honestly and transparently. And so we'll go there and we'll say, now listen, if you're looking for somebody to do everything for you and you don't want to touch marketing, you don't want to learn marketing, you don't want to learn HubSpot, why don't you go ahead? Use a company like SmartBug, you should, or New Breed, you should. But if you want to own your marketing and be empowered to create your own content and become world-class with HubSpot yourself, well, then we might be a great choice for you. And in the course of doing this, now people immediately say, oh, Impact is the way, or Impact definitely not the way, because I don't want to touch my marketing, both of which is a win. You see, you got to learn on your website to talk about just as much as what you're not as what you are. Because the moment you're willing to say what you're not is the moment you become dramatically more attractive to those who you are a good fit for. Raise your hand if on your website right now you explicitly talk about who you're not a good fit for. Raise your hand. Only a few. And those are the hardcore they ask you answer folks. Good job, Trity. Good job, girl. All right. Now, we're going to close out the big five with reviews and best. By the way, are you getting ideas of content you should be talking about right now? Are you saying to yourself, oh my goodness, there's so many things. Every time I give this presentation, which this is probably like number 800 and something, I am literally thinking, dude, there's still things I need to talk about. That's why this is so powerful, because we put ourselves in a state of just high, mental aptitude, and suddenly the ideas are flowing. You take Ed McKnight, Ed, how long have you been doing They Ask You Answer? 4 years. Have you got an idea today of something you should be talking about? Like 20. And this dude is a baller. You're going to hear him later. You're going to love him. But the point is, we're in that state to say, oh, there's so many more questions. There's so many more fears. There's so many things that people want to know that I have not talked about, and I could. And I could own this conversation and continue to become that most trusted brand. All right, reviews and best. I love this one. Has anybody ever heard from a potential customer before them say to you, I like you. I do. I think I want to buy this thing from you. But if we don't buy it from you, is there anybody else you might recommend? Has anybody ever heard that question? Don't you hate that question? Yeah, what do most companies respond with? Well, yeah, to tell you the truth, that's hard. I mean, it's just the way we do what we do. There's just nobody quite like us. Yeah. Or we send them to the worst competitor, knowing they'll come running back, right? And so, one night, when I was still a pool guy, back in the day, I was with this couple in Richmond, Virginia, and I'd been with them for like 2.5 hours. I gave them a quote. They saw the quote. They said, Marcus, we like you. We do. We think we want to get this swimming pool from you. But if we don't get this swimming pool from you, is there anybody else you might recommend? And I thought, oh, here we go. Oh, I didn't sell the pool. They were still looking. So I didn't sell the pool, but here's the great thing. I had a very long drive home. And as I was driving home, I thought to myself, well, they asked the question, which means what? Yeah, we're getting it, y'all. We got to answer it. And so I went home that night and I wrote this article right here. Who are the best pool builders in Richmond, Virginia? review/ratings, and I came up with a list of 5 of the best pool builders in Richmond, Virginia. Now, I'll be honest with you, when I wrote this, my 2 business partners freaked out. I mean, this was scary. Now, I ask you, for those that haven't read the book, we came up with a list of 5 of the best pool builders in Richmond, Virginia. Did we put ourselves on that list of 5, yes or no? I love the debates. This is great. It's like an auction. It's like an auction. It's great. Now, here's the thing. I could have, but if you create a best of list and then you put yourself on said list, it makes you look, that's right, biased. And we're in the business of trust. So no, I'm not on the list. And you're like, pool guy, this is so confusing. Folks, if they're reading this article, where are they? They're on our website. We're winning. We're winning. And so, if they're there, we're accomplishing our goal. But let's not stop there. Let's say that you, for some reason, decide to move to Richmond, Virginia. And you want to get a swimming pool to bring Australia with you, a fiberglass pool, of course. And so you go online and you search best pool builders, Richmond, Virginia. Because that's a natural search. It gets searched all the time. And as soon as you do that, you stumble across this article because it's probably the first one you're going to see because it bothered to answer the question. Now, I'm going to read the first couple paragraphs here to you. I want you to tell me your impression of this company after the first couple paragraphs. Here we go. Ready? Okay. And remember, you just moved to Richmond, Virginia, and you're just looking to work with an honest swimming pool company. Here we go. Each year, we at River Pools and Spas meet with well over 100 households in the Central Virginia Richmond area with respect to their in-ground swimming pool installation. And because so many folks know our thoughts and feelings from this website on all things pool construction, they often ask us who are some of the other builders and competitors we have in the area. We're never ones to shy away from being blatantly honest with respect to the competition. We want our customers to be informed as possible. Here's a list of some of the companies that have a solid in-ground pool building history in the Richmond area. What's your impression of this company right now? That's right, honest. Do you feel like they're an expert, yes or no? But did they say, we're the foremost expert? They don't say it, yet you feel it. Why? Why do you feel it? Because they addressed the elephant. Now, what's the result of this? Well, of course, if you go online and you search best pool builders, Richmond, Virginia, it's one of the first you're going to see, and that alone has been a cash cow. But let's be hypothetical. Let's say you don't even know who River Pools is, but you know who Playmore Pools is. And they happen to be our biggest competitor in Richmond, Virginia. And let's say you went online and you search reviews, Playmore Pools, Richmond, Virginia. Now, once you get past the first result, which is Yelp, which nobody's going to click on anyway for a pool, the first one you're going to see and the first one you're going to read is who? Yes. And that's why today, if you're researching any of our competitors, oftentimes you're going to learn about them from where? From us. Isn't that awesome? Now, some of you are saying, that's pretty gutsy. What's sad is most of you won't do it. That's the sad part. You see, everybody in this room is going to hear this and say, son of a gun. That was pretty cool. Do they say son of a gun here, by the way? Well, you should. You should. It's a great phrase. It's a great phrase. All right? So you're going to say, by the way, what's a good substitute? Teach it to me. Go ahead. What? She said get effed. I don't know if that's the way they say it, but okay. All right. All right. Oh, you could pretend I said that. So either way, most of us are going to say that phrase, geez, that was amazing, but we're still not going to do it. And why? Because you can take a horse to water, but can't make it drink. And literally, for the last hour now and 15 minutes, we're looking over the puddle, and you're like, this is so much water, and it's clean. I am so thirsty. And most in this room, we've got 200 in this room almost, literally, and I'm not exaggerating, 98% of us will walk away from the water and not drink it. That's wild to me. It does keep me in business, but it's also sad. I'm asking you to be a part of the 2%. Now, here's the thing. You saw this, right? I got a crazy story around this. Some years back, a lady comes to me and she says, Marcus, the craziest thing happened. I was this close to buying a pool from Playmore Pools. But before I bought that pool from Playmore, I decided to go online and research your company. And as I was researching your company, I stumbled across this article that you guys had written. I said, my goodness, these guys are so honest. I should probably call them too. And of course, you know what happened, don't you? Because otherwise, I wouldn't be telling you the story, now would I? Now, some of you might be saying, okay, but like, did your competition get mad with you talking about them? Let's go back to what we said about Playmore Pools. So with Playmore, here's what we said. Having been around for years, Playmore Pools is located in the Mechanicsville area. They specialize in vinyl liner in-ground pools, and the company also installs fiberglass pools and has a heavy emphasis on automatic pool cover installations. That information comes from where? Their website. Do you think they're going to say, I can't believe you said what we said? In fact, there's been times when I've gone to events. Literally, with Playmore, it's happened. I'll go to an industry event of pool companies. I walk in, somebody like Playmore approaches me, and they'll literally say, I don't know why you put us on that list, Marcus, but thank you. And I'm thinking, no, thank you. Thank you. Be a part of the 2%. Be a part of the 2%. And because we did that, that's what happened with the traffic to Riverpool's website. In fact, this past summer, we hit about 1 million visitors a month. Today, we're the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world. We became a manufacturer of pools. We became the first franchise of fiberglass swimming pools in the world. And it was utterly amazing. I sold the manufacturing side of the business. I sold the franchise side of the business. But I still own the original franchise in Virginia. And it's been such an amazing ride. It's given me a life of financial peace. I want you to experience that life of financial peace as well. That's why I'm so passionate about They Ask You Answer. I was in so much pain at one time, but we were able to leave that because we said we're going to do things differently. Now, as we close this first section out, and we've got about, I would say about 25 more minutes, and so hopefully you're having a good time. Then we're going to have a break. By the way, are you having a good time so far? Yeah. Good. Once you get past the part, it's like, I know he's American, he's a little bit, gregarious, but let's just put up with it because it's not that bad. It's not that bad, right? You're feeling it, weren't you?
No, where's your gun?
Oh my goodness. I'm not even going to repeat that one, okay? All right, but that was kind of funny. All right, so I want to just talk a little bit about applying what you've seen so far. Now, one of the things that you're going to want to start thinking about is, in the past we talked about blogs and things like this. Stop saying the word blog. Stop thinking blog. And start thinking much bigger in terms of what buyers want. Because what a buyer wants is they want a place where they can learn, and they can learn in their language, their style. When I say their language, their style, that means I might be a visual learner, I may be an auditory learner, it's whatever that thing is. And so we create, one of the things that we've done at Impact, and of course, when I say Impact, I'm referring to RedPanda, because again, same company. One thing that we do is we help folks create learning centers. And so a learning center is where you have that ultimate hub of information, and this is where you want to go. And so as an example of this, to show you what your goal is, if you go to River Pools right now, and you go to the homepage of the website, you're going to see this right here. All right, and so as you scroll down the home page, you're going to see, oh wow, view our extensive learning center. You got 250 videos, 700 articles, 31 million views. Wow, okay, that's cool. And you've got some of our prime pieces of content. You're like, okay, I'm diving in. And then as soon as you dive into the learning center, it's almost like you're on this like Google for fiberglass pools. And so now you can search for any topic. You've got some of the most prominent questions that we want them to know. And so we've got them out there. And then underneath that, we're going to have different pieces of content. That's a learning center. You want to have that. One of the things that we're developing right now, and we're starting to do this more and more with clients too, is we're using AI to allow them to ask AI a question on the website. And from the mountains of content that we have already, that They Ask You Answer content, they're able to give them a very specific answer, but it's from our content, not from the rest of the internet. And so this is absolutely what you all want to do, and this is what your buyers are going to want to do. The companies that have been doing They Ask You Answer are most prepared for everything that's happening with AI, and they're far and away doing better than companies that have not been doing They Ask You Answer in terms of responding to what is happening with AI. And again, we've got some sessions on that today. And so that's learning centers. I want to show you one more from a B2B company. This company is called Health Catalyst. And so this is they sell to hospitals. Their average deal is between $1 and $5 million. So it's a very high-end company. Just to give you a sense, though, of what their learning center looks like, they've got success stories, white papers, ebooks, insights, which is like their articles. They've got the webinars, and they've got a video library, too. And so what you want to start working towards is this right here. If you don't have a learning center on your site, you want to get one. Go ahead and raise your hand if you have what would be like a learning center or a knowledge center on your website right now. Raise your hand. Okay, not bad. We have a long ways to go. Good, good. Next thing I want to show you is what's called the content matrix. This is the process that if you're working with, like, let's say Moby's team, and they take you through They Ask You Answer, there's going to be a general pattern that we follow in terms of producing this content. But let's say that you don't end up working with a coach and you try this yourself. Well, either way, you want to follow the pattern that I'm about to give you, because if you follow this, this can give you literally over 100 pieces of content that you can deliver out to the world over the next year if you just do this activity. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the big 5 that we talked about: cost, problems, comparisons, reviews, and best. And then we're going to add 2 more, which are what is and how to or how do questions, okay? And so we've essentially got 7 major subject areas that we're going to build our content around. That's our start, okay? Now, once we know that, then we're going to take our products and services and we're going to start to build out a spreadsheet. And so on the left side of the spreadsheet, we've got our big 5 plus 2. And then at the top, we've got our major products and services that we sell. Now, some of you are saying, Marcus, I've got like 5,000 SKUs. I've got so many products. I don't know where to start. We'll start with the 20% that drive 80% of your revenue, or start with that which has the most opportunity for growth, okay? Now, you might say, okay, well, how might this look? So let's just use an example from a pet service company. So let's say that you had a pest control company, and underneath your services were pest control, rodent control, bed bug treatment, etc. And so if you were going to be doing They Ask You Answer, what you would do is you would go back to this spreadsheet, and we would say, okay, pest control at the top, rodent control, that's my second service, my third service is bed bug removal, and we'd go straight across like that. Now, under each one of these, we would start to do our questions or our brainstorming. What's really wild about this is where ChatGPT can help you a ton, is by saying, okay, ChatGPT, and I think we're going to talk about this later, but as an example, here's a prompt. ChatGPT, following Marcus Sheridan's They Ask You Answer framework, I want you to give me 10 questions about cost and price regarding the pest control industry. And boom, they're going to just pop them right out. And they're really beautifully stated. And so that's the type of thing that you want to do, and you should have at least 3 for each one of these. If not, you're probably being lazy. You're probably not really thinking very hard. And so if you think about it, just for one of your services or one of your products, at a minimum, you're going to have 21 pieces of content. That could be articles, videos, etc. They could be shorts, etc. right there. So that's 20, that's another 20, that's another 20. And now all of a sudden, if you have 5 services, that's 100 pieces of content you just got. And you could do this, and you could do it within a couple hours tonight, and you've got a framework for the next year. Fair, Nick? Can you pull that off? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. What do you sell, Nick?
Musical instruments.
Musical instruments. I love it. Give me some knuckles. Don't be afraid. Good. All right. Now, I want to teach you one more thing before we take a break, and this is one of my favorite subjects. One of my favorite subjects, assignment selling. Now, Moby is going to be talking about selling, and one of the parts of the work that we do with clients is we realized a long time ago that if you try to do They Ask You Answer and you don't engage the sales team, it doesn't go well. So the sales team has got to be a fundamental part of this, and he's going to be talking to you about high-performing sales teams. And I think you're going to really enjoy that, because this is what these are lessons that we have garnered over the time of all the sales trainings we've been doing. We work with a lot of companies. We do a ton with them on their content production, but there's a whole lot of sales training that comes with it, because as we evolve the way we market, we've got to evolve the way that we sell. So I want to talk about assignment selling, and this is so fun and such a very, very fun, cool story. Now, we'll start with this question here. How many pages of your website do you think a potential customer, on average, would be willing to consume, to read, view, etc., before they buy from you on average? Anybody? Okay? I heard 5, I heard 10. My man said 2, good. What we have consistently found is because most of us are in the business and because we don't do they ask you answer, we have this very low impression of this number. You see, most companies say 2 or 3 pages. Well, the reality is what we have found, and we've got a mountain of data on this, companies will, and individuals, whether it's B2B or B2C, they'll spend dramatically more time during that 80% consuming your content than you realize if you're willing to give them the content for which they seek. And that's the caveat to all of this. And to explain this, let me show you a little story that changed my life. At the beginning of 2000, I forget what it was. It's probably 10 years ago or so. I was comparing 2 groups of people on my swimming pool company's website. Both had filled out a form, said, I want to get a quote from you. This group here filled out the form. They got a quote, they bought. This group here filled out the form. They got a quote, they didn't buy. So I said, what is the difference? Like, why did these people not buy? Why did these people buy? Is there something about their behavior, specifically on our website, that could help me understand what's going on? Well, underneath the group that had bought, we kept seeing the number 30. And of course, that number 30 represented what? Number of pages. Here's what we found, and everybody pay attention. That if somebody read 30 or more pages of the website before the initial sales appointment, they would buy 80% of the time. If they did not hit that magical number of 30 pages or pieces of content consumed, closing rates were 25%. So they would literally go from 25 to 80% closing rate if they hit that magic number. And boy, did that get me excited. Because, Luke, if you knew that all you had to do was to get your potential customers to read 30 pieces of your content or consume it, and they would buy 80% of the time, what would you do differently? He said, make more content. Yeah, Luke, because if your website's 15 pages, you can't say, hey, Marcus, could you read my website twice, right? You can't do that. You can't do that. So we've got to have more content, and it's got to be about them. But it doesn't stop there because you've got to learn to integrate content into the sales process. And so that was when we completely changed the way that we sold. And I'm going to show you something really quickly. And if you have a sales team, I'm going to show you how we do assignment selling. Now, this is something that we train companies on. And we worked with a lot of companies on this. Tasha, in her talk, she's going to reference assignment selling. But I'm going to make a suggestion to you because I've learned through experience that afterwards, everybody asked me for this, and this will make all of our lives easier. I want you to pull out your phone and record what I'm about to show you because I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. And if you have anybody in your organization that's in sales, you're going to want them to see this so that you're not trying to remember exactly how we did it. So record this just for your own sake. And this way, I'm not having to just send out a bunch of links. This makes it easier for everybody. So I'm about to show you what's called assignment selling. Now, in the past, let's say hypothetically, Moby reached out to me and said, hey, Marcus, I want you to come out to my house and give me a quote for a pool. Before I understood assignment selling, I'd say, sure. And I would go out to his house. But I didn't know how educated he was. And so now, once we understood the power of 30, we implemented this. And this is assignment selling. Moby calls me up and says, hey, Marcus, could you come out to my house and give me a quote for a swimming pool? And I say, sure, I'd love to come out to your house. But you're getting ready to spend a lot of money. And if you're going to spend a lot of money, I want to make sure you're well educated and don't make any mistakes. So here's what's going to happen as we're having this conversation on the phone. I'm going to send you 2 things that you're really going to love. The first thing I'm going to send you is a video that shows you the entire swimming pool install process. From the time that it shows up to the house, excavation, goes in the ground, the patio, the whole 9. In this way, when I come out to your house on Friday, you're not going to say to me, Moby, so Marcus, what does this process look like? You're already going to know. Now, quick time out, that just saved me 30 minutes on the sales appointment. Now, the second thing I'm going to send you is a guide. You're going to love this guide because it's going to answer a lot of the questions that you have about, in this case, fiberglass swimming pools that you haven't had answered, but you really need to know. Like, should I get a cover with my pool? What's the best type of cover? Should it be mesh? Should it be solid? Should it be automatic? Should it be solar? Should I get a heater with my pool? What's the best type of heater? Should it be gas? Should it be electric? Should it heat and cool the water? Should it be solar? Now, this guide, it's a little bit long. It's about 30 pages. But I promise you, it'll be well worth your time. Moby, will you take the time to review these things before our appointment on Friday? And 90% of the time, he says yes. And you can stop recording now. Now that is assignment selling. Now you might have recorded that just now, and you might be saying to yourself, well, that wasn't very special. Ho, ho, ho. What will happen is I will come to your team and I'll say to your sales team, are you integrating content into the sales process? And this is what I will see if they say yes. They'll say, yes, I am. And here's what it sounds like. So Moby, I'm excited to come out to your house and I'm going to send you a couple pieces of content. It would be great if you could give them a look. No commitment. No tease. No, here's what's in it for you. No sense of loss. You see, if you do assignment selling well, it's got 3 parts. What exactly the assignment is. Why is it so important that they review the thing? And then when does it have to be done by? Notice I got a commitment at the end. That's what it looks like. And if you don't train your sales team on this, well, then they're going to be like frivolous with your content. They are your best marketers in a lot of ways in terms of distributing your content. They should be integrating content into the sales process all the time. If you've done They Ask You Answer, they can be unstoppable in the field, but you can't assume that just because you're doing They Ask You Answer that they're going to suddenly integrate content into the sales process. It doesn't work that way. You got to teach them. And so when we're working with the client, we spend a tremendous amount of time drilling the sales team until it becomes automatic. And they quickly understand what that is so definitively and why, what's in it for you, right? And when it has to be done by. And it's so perfect and so smooth. And now all of a sudden, closing rates explode. And you start to have experiences like this. And this is where we're going to end before that first break with this story right here. This is a fun story. You're going to love this story. You see, this is a real lead sheet. When somebody fills out a form, this is the type of information I get to see. So this person's name is William Grizzard. Bill Grizzard will call him. It says here on this lead sheet that he was doing an organic search. It says he was using Yahoo as his search engine, which in and of itself makes him weird. And then it says he searched the phrase cost of fiberglass pool. And then something really crazy happened. It says total page views. He proceeded to read how many pages of the website? 375 pages. Jeff, what is wrong with Bill Grizzard? Yeah, you're like, he's got way too much time on his hands. Maybe he is a competitor. Maybe he's a stalker. Maybe he's got obsessive swimming pool disorder. But either way, we all agree this is odd behavior, right? Odd behavior, but it gets better. Yes, it gets better. Because that same night, another lead sheet came through. It turns out that Bill has a wife named Joni. And Joni also did a search on Yahoo. We have the first identified Yahoo family in the world here, friends. This is amazing. She does a search on Richmond, Virginia pools. She proceeds to read 149 pages. And so between these two people, how many pages of the website have they now read? 500 and some pages. What do you think that sales appointment was like? I need a prop. I walked into the house. Bill Grizzard is standing there with the spreadsheet in his hands. You're like, what a nerd. He's got the pool he's getting. He's got every option and accessory he's getting with said pool. And all he needed from me was one little thing, which was, that's right, the price. And I walked out of that house 45 minutes later. Not 2.5 hours, 45 minutes later. Signed contract. $10,000 deposit. And as I drove away, I started to laugh because I realized something. How much selling had I done that day? 0. Was he past 80%? Yes. Where was he? Yeah, like 99.9999. My only job was do not screw this up, pool guy. Wouldn't it be great if every time you met with the prospect, the job was just don't screw it up? Now, could that happen every time? No, I don't think it could, but could it happen much more than it currently does within your organization? You see, that day I realized that content, assuming it's honest and transparent, and that's the caveat, right? It's the greatest sales and trust building tool in the world. Because it doesn't sleep. It doesn't stop working for you. This year, that one cost article is going to generate probably a few more million in revenue. It's the gift that keeps on giving. You see, trying to do this whole content thing is like, in many ways, you start with a small snowball, and then you grow it, and you're pushing it, and you're kind of going up the hill, and it's just a grind, you know? It's so hard, and then one day, you get to the top of the hill or the mountain and you just give it a little tap and suddenly it goes. And it goes without you. And before you know it, you're like, how did this become a national company? And how did I get to this life? How did this happen? It is by thinking differently and doing differently than it's ever been. You know, it turns out that Bill Grizzard is not a weirdo. He happens to be a brain surgeon where I live in Virginia. A brain surgeon. But he also is a consumer that doesn't want to make a mistake with his backyard. He's just like you and me. So I'm asking, are you underestimating just how much content they'll consume? I think we probably are. Are we thinking like them? Are we addressing their questions, their worries, their fears? And are we doing it the right way? Chances are we can all do better, this guy included. So today, we're going to continue this journey of how we can do better. In fact, speaking of journey, you're going to hear about the buyer's journey after the break from Tasha, and then Moby, before lunch, is going to talk about high-performing sales teams, 2 things that are critical. Now, after lunch, you're going to hear about AI. We've got a couple of great sessions on AI in conjunction with They Ask You Answer. You can become an incredible multiplier of skills and abilities and work if you use AI the right way. So we want to teach you how to become more efficient and a greater multiplier of work. And at the end of the day, I'm going to finish it out again. I'm going to come back. I'm going to teach you a few more things about what you need to be aware of around the turn, what you should be thinking about so that you are prepared for what's next while still saying we've got to start with the most essentials, with the foundation. It's going to be an amazing day. We're going to have an amazing time. Now, the current time right now is 10:43. We're going to get back from the break, I believe, at, 11:15? Okay, so we're going to give you a full 30 minutes. I would challenge you to take the time to get to know someone today that you don't currently know. Ask someone why they're here. Ask them if they're doing They Ask You Answer. I know it's a little bit weird, but once we get through that, you'll probably find that there's a lot of cool people in this room that you can learn a lot from. And oftentimes, too, when we come to events like this, the magic isn't so much what happens on the stage, but it's what happens outside in the conversations that we have. And so please, let's take 30 minutes and give yourselves a big round of applause. Good job.